And good evening, everybody, on this wonderful, wonderful Sunday night. And we're trying something new here. We're just working through our studio redesign. So you guys are going to be excited when we're done. Where are you at?
Welcome to our Sunday Night Live, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Man, I'm excited. And she looks great. Idaho. Everybody's in the house here. Michigan's here. Massachusetts. Pennsylvania. Panama City. Texas. Wow, Minnesota. It's great to see you. Vermont's in the house. The Cape Cod, where they pack the cat and the bus and have it. Ohio.
You do that so well.
St. Louis, Wisconsin, Florida, PEI. I've got relatives up there, the Dingwells. Texas, Ohio, Utah, beautiful, beautiful Utah. Wisconsin, Florida, Nova Scotia, Indiana, Colorado, Oklahoma, home of Garth Brooks. Gotta love him. Orlando, Florida, home of Goofy and Disney World. Minnesota, the great state of South Carolina.
And Michigan.
We love South Carolina. Go blue. Or Michigan State, depends on if you're a green flag.
A Spartan.
Honey, you look absolutely amazing tonight.
Thank you so much, sweetheart.
I love our new little setup here. What do you think?
Yeah, I have to get used to looking at the camera and not turning to see you, but I can do both. But
you think?
Yeah.
I got a little of my shirt on your side over there. I got to maybe move over just a little. I'm kind of missing sitting right next to you.
No, I moved over. I gave Chris about 8, maybe a foot more here. So he's happy. He's got more space to spread out.
I have a whole bunch of notes that sometimes I go off of, and I was kind of bumping into her a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, not anymore.
Hey, we've got a new thing going on, don't we?
We do. Before we get started, we have a favor to ask of you guys. We are working to grow our audience over on Spotify. And if you haven't done so already, I know many of you already have, because we've been asking.
And it's free.
If you can get over to Spotify, we have the link in the description below. Maybe after this show or time convenient for you. And if you can just sign up, it's free. If you can listen to just one TIR episode over there, it will really help us out in growing our channel. So we're truly grateful for the support. We know many of you have already done it. Thank you so much. We're going to report back when we hit our goal over there. You guys will be the first to know. And as always, we're grateful for your support and for sharing our videos and just being here. We just love it. Sunday nights are we just look forward to it all week. So we get to hang out with you guys and be with you.
Yeah. And, we just absolutely love having the opportunity to have this podcast. And it's because of you. You folks have pushed us so far. I mean, over the 300,000 mark. And I mean, did you ever think 5 years ago that we would be still sitting here talking about everything?
I'd always hoped, but I didn't know. I just didn't, we didn't know. But to be where we are, we're so grateful to each and every one of you. We're grateful also to our mods who help out every week. Grateful for our Patreon members, of course, our YouTube members and our subscribers.
Yeah, without each and every one of you, we couldn't do this program, and it's because of you. And we only ask just that one thing, is that if you've not subscribed, please subscribe, and that you share this through all your social media networks. That's it. And then we ask that you have a good time, participate in the chat, keep it classy, and we'll have a good time. We enjoy every person that comes into this this program as a whole. We're so grateful to each and every one of you. So there's no such thing as a bad question. There can be bad insults and stuff, but not here. This is a safe place. Our mods keep the chat pretty clean. But so Karen, you've been doing a lot of work again.
We are not giving up, digging on the Nancy Guthrie case and other cases too.
Yeah, we've reached out in Nancy's case. Those of you who have been with us for a while, we went to Tucson, and Karen and I love to get on the road and travel. If you weren't aware, our channel actually started in an Airstream 5 years ago.
5.5 years ago.
5.5 years ago, where it was Dylan, Buddy, Karen, and I, and we traveled the country. We lived full-time in that Airstream for almost 3 years. And it was all during COVID and all of that. And we sold our house. We just moved on. And as a result of that, we ended up going and trying to help in the true crime venue. It's kind of like do what you know.
And to bring these cases to you guys so you could see what they look like. What is a place, the crime scenes, what do they look like, feel like? What does the area look like? And we love it. We haven't stopped doing that. And we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, we've got a lot more of that coming there's going to be a lot more of that coming. Also, one thing though that we were struck going to Tucson on Nancy's case is, we had reached out to friends, acquaintances, people connected to Nancy Guthrie, and almost no one will talk about her. And so we started to ask ourselves a quick question. And that question is, why does her name shut conversations down? And, the repeated refusals, the vague responses, or sudden silence now that's taken place in that community really has us thinking about, okay, what the heck else is going on here? And so we wanted to talk about that tonight and kind of lay out some concepts and some ideas, because she's still missing. And here we are, 7 months into this. You can only rehash so many things so many times. However, her friends and family, nobody wants to talk about her. Nobody.
Yeah. It's not just her friends, it's acquaintances, the people she worshiped with at the church that she went to. She did go to a church, and she was affiliated with a church in Tucson. How about the people she socialized with? Former colleagues of hers, all the people that knew her before we knew the name Nancy Guthrie.
So, Karen, what do you think is let's talk about the scope of what we've discovered so far around Nancy. And I'm not just talking about Nanos talking nothing, just mumbles. We're not gonna hit mumbles tonight, because he knows what he's done. I am a little concerned, though, that the AG is not going to do anything. I'm going to go on the record tonight and say that based on her track record. So I'm not going to hold my breath, and you in that area, you should put your seatbelts on and maybe prepare for a collision, because
What do you mean?
well, I don't think the AG, based on her track record from what we've been finding out and looking into, that she's more of a political beast than doing the right thing.
And that's not terribly surprising, though, unfortunately.
Right. And that's why I have this picture here of surfing, and it says action. It says, do what is right, not what is easy. And it's got a guy in the tube there as the wave is cresting over him. But I'm not going to hold my breath that the AG is going to do that. Even though you guys have hit them with thousands of emails, tens of thousands of emails. But that said, what's the full scope of, I mean, we've talked to friends, we've talked to mutual connections, people who should reasonably be saying something. Would you agree, Karen?
Yeah. And the people closest to Nancy are not being asked about the investigation. We totally get that. They don't want to talk. They don't want to potentially interfere. We're talking about how we can get to the heart of finding out who Nancy was and those who knew her. And we're just questioning, why are people reluctant to talk about Nancy, the person? Somebody pointed out she had a whole full life long before her youngest daughter became famous in the media. And so we really asked ourselves, and we kind of went down a checklist like, okay, so why are people reluctant to talk about her? Is it fear of saying something wrong? Is it out of respect for the Guthrie family? Are they afraid of interfering with the investigation? Are there concerns about them getting media attention? Were they told? Did they get legal advice not to talk? Are they afraid of being misquoted or becoming part of the investigation? Or do they simply not want their personal relationship with Nancy exposed publicly?
Yeah, and
I mean, these are all valid questions.
And some of our common reactions in our efforts, outreach efforts. And by the way, we're not done. We just recently FOIA'd the sheriff on the family talking points. Remember in the press conference where he said, I want to make sure I get, the family statement correct. I have talking points. And then he said, I'm not good with a script. Well, Karen has FOIA'd those talking points. We want to know because it's a public phone that he uses for, it's county property. So we're entitled to have access to those talking points if he's going to quote from them, or at least go by them in the press conferences. So we think that's fair game. And so Karen, has reached out to get into that. But some other common responses have been, I don't want to get involved. Who says that?
Right. And you know what? We understand if people say, I can't talk about the case. I don't want to talk about the case. Great. How about saying, Nancy was a wonderful friend. She loved X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. Why are they not willing to talk about her in that regard?
A defamation suit can only be had if the information is not truthful.
That's right. Truth is
the defense.
The defense.
So as long as there's truth there, then you can sue people all day long. The courts will throw it out. Trust me. I've been in this business since 1982, and I've seen both civil, federal, and state courts toss. We used to have I had a pocket full of cards that said, Johnny Cochran's phone number on it. It was his office with Johnny Cochran's phone number on it, and we'd be on the street. And this was during the Rodney King days, where everybody was like, I'm suing you, and I'm calling Johnny Cochran. We would literally, one of our guys had printed up like 250 of them and gave them out to everybody on the squads. And we would say, well, here's his card. Give him a ring. And that's how stupid people are sometimes. I'm suing you. Well, go ahead, get in line. Because the moment depositions show up, those lawsuits become very difficult, or the moment discovery shows up, those types of problems become really difficult. So, maybe everybody should just start, carrying around Johnny Cochran cards, even though he's deceased. But, get the next best one, maybe F. Lee Bailey. I'm suing you. Get in line.
So, a real legitimate question is Nancy Guthrie's connection to her celebrity daughter actually making people more reluctant to talk about her?
This is very interesting, because what I'm leaning into here, there seems to be a controlled narrative. I don't know, maybe I'm way off here, but I don't think I am.
Right. And I think a valid question is, are people afraid that if they talk about Nancy, just who she was, tell us about her personality, etc., that they're going to get pulled into the Savannah Guthrie media machine? And if so, what does that mean?
Well, and what's really interesting, again, I keep going back to these, this principle of, look, common reactions have been, I don't want to get involved. One, Karen was even hung up on by Nancy's girlfriend,
A close friend.
her close friend. They're firm refusals, but they're polite. But there are abrupt ends to a conversation. And this is a pattern. This is a pattern. And this is unusual even in these types of sensitive stories, because now we're into 7 months. You have a sheriff who, doesn't know what he's doing in terms of his ego's in the way, and he's controlling a conversation to the point where everybody has analyzed and they're freezing, right? They're not saying or doing anything, and that that goes downstream into the investigation. And I can assure you, when you have politicians running investigations versus professional investigators, then it gets so screwed up you can't even see straight. And I think we saw examples of this, and I'm concerned that that kind of pressure has also been put on Nancy's friends, to the point where I have to now ask, why the silence? Why the silence? And, are there fears of legal percussions? Just in the chat, somebody said, people are worried about what? The truth?
Well, I mean, what would you be worried about? Let's say one of Nancy's friends who knew her pretty well said, we played mahjong together. I've known her for 25 years. We'd go out for lunch, et cetera, et cetera. Why? What is the fear in talking about a girlfriend that you had a wonderful relationship with? I don't understand that. Why are the people who knew Nancy not allowed to speak about her? I've never seen anything like it on a still missing case, a missing persons case. I mean, right? Obviously, this is a homicide investigation, but she was kidnapped out of her home. And there's far more questions than answers 7 months later.
Well, and if you're in your 80s and you're in Tucson, Arizona, the sheriff has a responsibility to tell the public you're not at risk.
Right. And to that point, he has said both. Right up front, he said, we think this was targeted. The community's safe. And then it was a few weeks later, maybe a month or so later, he gives another interview and says, well, we don't know who did this. Definitely, lock your doors. We don't know. And he put a lot of fear back into the community.
Right. And then he backed away from it and came right back and said, the community has nothing to be afraid of. So we're supposed to think, and the one thing about that we try to hit here, on this platform is responsibility. And of course, that's subject to interpretation by whoever the viewer is, right? If you're a troll, of course you're going to troll. If you're reasonable, intelligent, and you're not, working at the fry machine with the salt at McDonald's, well, then of course you're going to critically think through this, which our chat does. Okay? And anybody that watches our show gets it. However, if you have to then start thinking about, okay, what are the other reasons behind, slowing this thing down? Because if we're to believe that the two notes are legit, let's just go down that lane for a minute. Which I'm of the opinion still that they could have been A, an afterthought, or B, just absolute noise. Okay? That's just my opinion. I could be 100% wrong as well. I'm open to being 50-50. That's what having a conversation is about. Okay? Now, what I mean by that, or where I'm going with this, is then we have to ask ourselves, okay, what are the reasons why people will not talk? What are some of the angles that I could think of? And I wrote a couple of things down. Number one, obviously fear of legal or personal repercussions. That's, just kind of opened up for interpretation to anybody or anything. The second is loyalty and protection of others and potentially other people involved, i.e., the players. And you also have a gut feeling about the players, and therefore you don't want to say anything.
But if you're not asked about the players, why can't you just talk about the woman who Nancy was?
That's a great point. And that's where Karen has been approaching this from that angle. And most recently, you spoke to somebody, or at least, had
I've been in communication
with one of her best friends, right? Or
Well,
close friends.
Well, this was interesting. I've been in contact with one of the people who organized the candlelight vigil for Nancy. If you guys remember back the very first week that the case broke, it was back on February 4th. It was held at a Tucson church, and all the news covered it. There were several women who knew Savannah, knew the family, and organized the vigil, the candlelight vigil. And they gave statements on the news, very short statements, but they got a lot of coverage on it. 7 months later, they're not willing to talk about the vigil. Are they going to do another vigil? What has been the, positive community responses from your first vigil? And I scratched my head. I told Chris, I said, that is really, really odd. Really, really odd. I can't figure it out. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and what's really going to be interesting to watch happen, because everybody knows it's going to happen, that the YouTube true crimers, streamers, whoever, they're going to get hold of the documents at some point. They're also going to get hold of the people, like the Uber driver. They'll find them. Netflix will find them. Dateline will find them. 48 Hours will find them. NBC will find them. Okay. Or CBS, the competitors to NBC, where, if people are just kind of, wanting to play the ratings games right now, TMZ will find them. And when they find them, if it doesn't line up, then all of this, stonewalling by the sheriff is going to be a huge international story at some point. It's just a matter of time. And that's why we used to say you have to feed the beast. If you don't feed the beast, i.e. the media, correctly, then it will eat you. And it will eat you in today's society with social media. I mean, look right now. We are streaming on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook simultaneously right now. And I had 10 other choices. TikTok, WhatsApp. And I chose not to do that. I'm just one person. Karen and I are just one channel. At some point, as many have found out, the environment has changed in the 21st century to citizen journalism. Look at Nick Shirley, that kid. That kid took down an entire state through fraud. And now he's taken on California, Fraudifornia. And as a result of that, then he ends up not being controlled. And that's what will happen in this case. And so this loyalty and protection of others, being the second reasoning, I think will backfire at some point. Will backfire. Now, whether you like him or not, I'm apolitical on that kid. I think he's great. I think he's great. Just as I do the other streamers standing out in front of Nancy's house. They're doing something that other people won't do. So what's the third reason? Trauma or unresolved pain that people will still carry is what I thought of. Are they so traumatized that they can't get through it, and therefore they don't want to talk about Nancy? What say you, Karen?
Yeah, all valid points. And there is a distinction to be made. Nancy's friends knew her patterns. Investigators know facts of the case, but her friends would know that she always did this or that, or things that she would never do, or, what her schedule was like, a particular routine on the weekends. And collectively, all of that information is going to help investigators reconstruct Nancy's final hours before she disappeared. And it's really interesting. If we know who the last person was to have a meaningful conversation with Nancy, I'm not talking about the last person to see her. Very different. I'm talking the last person who had a deep conversation with Nancy. That would yield some really interesting information, right? What did they talk about? Was Nancy her normal self? Was she worried about anything? Was she excited about anything? Did she mention future plans? Did she mention a stranger? Did she talk about money? Did she mention anyone she hadn't heard from? Did anything about her behavior seem unusual? And, all these questions are very valid, and they could yield really potentially good, solid information, facts for the investigators. We would ask okay, well, how many people knew Nancy's schedule, her weekend schedule, right? What did that look like? We knew that she gathered with friends at a girlfriend's home for church. But what else did she do? What were her social activities? Who did she talk to on the weekends? Did she have a formal phone call? My mom's 87, and my mom has a couple of girlfriends that she has a standing phone call with every single week, who routinely checked in on Nancy. And then we could take it further. Who knew that she was going to be home at the time that she was home? And so why haven't more of her acquaintances step forward to talk? We're not asking people to speculate about the investigation or who kidnapped Nancy. The question is, it's not even a question. It is, tell us about Nancy. If you knew Nancy, what would you tell investigators that the public doesn't know about her? And what are we missing Think about this. What are we missing in the Nancy Guthrie investigation? Because Nancy's own story has actually become about Savannah and not Nancy. Chris?
Yeah. So I guess, Tabitha, if you feel that that this blood is the bottom of the barrel, then I'll take it. I really do. Because, if you're part of her circle that doesn't want to say anything, which I'm assuming you are based on your comment here. But to me, this is real human blood. And so for that, this is a real human story, a human interest story. And, you're proving our point tonight. And I'm glad you put that comment up, because by making those types of comments, those are the type of social pressures and community dynamics that are taking place in Tucson. Because when we were in Tucson, what you don't see is you don't see at the bottom of the barrel a picture of Nancy Guthrie. You don't see that barrel, any barrel with a picture of Nancy Guthrie on it. Not one. Okay? And that's what we're asking tonight. Is are you part of the barrel? Because apparently there are, barrel people in Tucson that we are trying to figure out why that is. Whatever happened to the word empathy? Or how about intimacy? Into me, see. Why is it always out from that community against the world? Okay, against the world. And, this is a problem that Nancy Guthrie is up against, because those social conditions, i.e. insults and that type of stuff, which, by the way, I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight because I was hoping somebody was going to be that, be like that and bring those types of things up. And it was kind of a baited situation. You fell right for it, kind of like a bear trap, because this guy right here is still out there. And we better hope that he doesn't know where you live, because guys like me hunt these people down. And they're not in barrels. They're in human existence and bringing blood to the problem.
People seem to forget porch guy who showed up at Nancy's porch with a gun, with the whole kit, the mask, who took Nancy. He's still out there. If he's capable of taking an 84-year-old grandmother out of her bed in the dark of night, he's capable of committing any other crime out there, and he has not been caught.
Yeah, and so we want to know if those social dynamics and those community dynamics are playing a role here. And quite frankly, if you're from Tucson, you just proved our point. I hope you're not from Tucson. Tell us where you're at, just in the chat again, so we can make sure that we clarify your position. And by the way, I hope the fry machine at McDonald's isn't broken, because you're off duty.
So I want to go back to something that we were just talking about a couple minutes ago. And I have a question. Have we inadvertently turned Nancy into a character in Savannah Guthrie's story instead of treating Nancy like the central person of her own story by not telling her own story? As I said earlier, Nancy had an entire life, and it sounded like quite a great life before her daughter ever became famous. So if Nancy's close circle won't tell her story, then who will?
Yeah, and if we look at just this one picture, look how much information is in this one picture. You have 2 locks, you have a doorbell camera, you have a $3,000 security door, which, by the way, those bolts are specially designed so that people can't just take them off, unscrew them and go in. You have a card from from Adult Protective Service, APS. Okay. But just look at the messaging inside this one photograph. First of all, if you contrast that against the story, Mom always leaves her doors open. Then why this door? Why this door? Why the screen? Maybe I'm scraping at the bottom of the barrel trying to understand this, but I'm going to ask that question internally. Why the camera in the first place? If in fact you are of the habit of leaving your doors open and windows and all the other stuff, then why do you even have this on your front door? You don't need it. You feel so comfortable and so secure in your house. You don't need two locks on just this door, by the way. There are also locks on the other door, and there's a camera out front. So that in of itself kind of goes counterintuitive against the narrative of, well, Mom leaves her doors open all the time, or my family leaves their doors open.
And Chris, let's remember, there's other cameras in the house. Nanos told us that day one. Not just the taken Nest camera out front.
Right.
So if you're right, to your point, if you're going to leave your doors unlocked or open, why have all those other cameras in and around your home?
Right. And because now that makes this picture where the back door is propped open even weirder. Because we, from a criminal investigative analysis perspective, that if you think about this even from a behavioral analysis aspect, why would the suspect prop the door open when there's another door much easier and closer to her bedroom on the same porch? This door is into the kitchen. This door, also on the back porch, is into the main living area, and there's no security door. So you have less to deal with coming out this door than you do this door. Because this door has an interior door as well into the kitchen, and you have an exterior security door. And this is the door that's allegedly propped open, but this door isn't. And this door wouldn't have to be propped open because you'll notice it's an inward swing. All you do is open the door, and that door will stay open into the house. And by the way, you'll notice there's no forced entry through the glass on this door. And there are also 2 additional locks on this door. So again, Mom would have had to leave 1, 2 locks, 3, 4, 5, 6 locks unlocked for point of entry from a suspect into this house, if the suspect came in through the back door. I don't know about you, but I think that's really problematic in my thought process. Just saying. This would have been a much easier point of entry into that home. This blue door right here. Because all you have to do is break the glass, reach over, and if it's a key mechanism on that deadbolt, then you're screwed. You can't get in. You're going to have to break the glass all the way and climb through the window, which, by the way, I've seen 1,000 times, being in law enforcement since 1982.
And we have no indication that happened in this case.
Well, it's not broken. Right. Exactly.
0.
So now the narrative has to be, well, we we saw the back door propped open with a flower pot. If the suspect's inside the house, all he has to do is open this door and pull it in. And why didn't he prop this door open from the interior? Why does he need to prop it open from the outside? Which again, we get back into that conversation again about, okay, well, then the medical story. For me, that medical story is never lined up. And you guys have heard me say it many times here. Many times. The medical story is never lined up for me. Not that it couldn't be true. I'm just saying it didn't line up. Because number one, Nancy would have had to call 911 herself in the middle of the night. That's the first problem that has to be overcome in that story. And if I was the first deputy on the scene and I heard that, immediately I would have made a note to see if Nancy called 911 because she was having a medical incident. Not that the family thought that it was a medical event, but that Nancy thought she was having a medical event. She's the victim. So she would have called 911 and said, I can't have, or I need an ambulance because I'm having a heart attack or whatever the issue is. Yes, ma'am, we're on our way. Stay on the phone, because they have a flip chart, right? It's the ABCs of dispatching. Every dispatcher, even in the CAD systems today, they've got, digital flip charts that dispatchers have a protocol that they can go through almost immediately. And they can say, and they'll tell her, Miss Guthrie, stay on the phone. We have a medical emergency on the way. We have fire. You're going to hear them show up. Are your doors and windows open? Now, if she said that night, well, yes, I always leave my doors and windows open. Okay, great. We're in the ballpark. Nothing to see here. Move along. But if none of that happened, then where did the narrative come from? Well, we thought when we saw that the back door was propped open and mom leaves her doors open all the time, why haven't they addressed this issue? Or is this like in Get Smart? Remember the cone of silence where the chief and Max or 99 would go into the cone of silence and it would drop out of the ceiling and it would come down and they're in a cone of silence. Don't you feel like you're in the cone of silence on this one, Karen? Yeah.
So many things. Yes.
Remember Get Smart where he'd go, aha, just as I thought, electric grass.
I love that show.
And he'd pull a hairpin out. He goes, 99, do you have a hairpin? Sorry, Max, I don't. Well, I do. And he'd reach out and he'd just, rubber garbage. Okay. I feel like this is an episode of, Get Smart sometimes, simply, I just don't, we're getting this feeling that people just don't want their names attached to this somehow because of fatigue. And you recently had that communication. Tell everybody, a little bit about that communication that you just had from the woman who organized. Well, you tell them.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, you probably didn't hear me mention this earlier, but we continue to reach out to many people in Nancy's circle. And one of the people that I reached out to was one of the organizers of the candlelight vigil that was held for Nancy in a church on like day 4 of her disappearance. It was by a friend of Savannah, and who's in Tucson. This woman worked with Savannah in Tucson years back. And she saw Savannah and her brother and sister's first video that they put out right after Nancy was disappeared. And it's where Savannah had asked for prayers. So her friend in Tucson said, well, if she's asking for prayers, let's put a candlelight vigil together. And she did. There were many organizers doing this. It was at a church, and even it was at the church that Nancy didn't attend. It was at a different church, but the church where Nancy attends, a pastor from there who apparently knew Nancy, he spoke at this event. And all the local media covered this, and not just local media. I mean, major media covered it as well. And at the time, a few of the organizers gave brief statements to the media. So I went back and I said, let me talk with her. I'd love to talk with her. And, with 7 months hindsight, where the case is today, I'd love to talk with her about the vigil. I'm not asking her about the investigation. I still would think that she would be one of the top people that would talk about Nancy. Tell us about Nancy's story. Who was she? What was she like? There has to be people who know this woman. Nancy's been in that community over 50 years, who can talk at least in general about her. So I was really surprised when this person declined to talk without giving a reason, just said no. Now, I think it's important. Silence is very meaningful, but it doesn't imply guilt. It doesn't imply that somebody knows something that they don't want to talk about. It doesn't mean somebody is hiding something. But if you don't have to speculate. You don't have to discuss the investigation or your opinions. Just tell us who Nancy was. And for some reason, this is really impossible for the people in Nancy's circle to do at this point. And Chris and I are scratching our heads. Why? We're confused. We don't know why. Why would you organize a vigil for Nancy and then not want to talk about Nancy at all? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because what it does is it creates this atmosphere of conspiracy. And the sheriff has a responsibility to cut that off. Not just come out and say, well, everybody's been cleared, but then reverse that and say, well, no, everybody's still on the table. No, everybody's been cleared. Oh, wait a minute. Everybody's still on the table. Which one is it? And he's at fault here. He's at fault for this piece of the puzzle from my perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, because that mixed messaging, has gotten into a place where the public is confused, and how that affects the public's understanding, and what that does is to the search for truth, because it doesn't give closure to that truth. And I know this from personal experience of working many high profile murders. Just in, Karen covered the Hale-Bopp problem. Remember that one with Applegate down in Rancho Santa Fe in San Diego, where there were, how many victims were on that thing? Like 37, 38?
Something like that.
Like 37. Remember all the people in the pajamas with the matching tennis shoes, and they all had, I think they had like 37 cents in their pocket or something, some crazy amount of number. And one of our old guys, a guy, from San Diego County, his name is Rick Scully. And shout out to Rick. By the way, he's got a bar in I think on the Big Island. It's called Scully's. So if you're ever on the Big Island, go into Scully's, tell them McDonough sent you, and have them buy you a drink. But he was the lead detective on the Heaven's Gate case, and he's now running a bar. Great guy, amazing guy, and so is his wife. Hi, Lynn. Both Karen and I love both Rick and Lynn. That said, but those kind of folks, those guys were just like lunatics, right? I was in the ME's office that day, believe it or not, on another homicide case when they started bringing these pajamas in and putting them on the different tables. And I was like, what's this all about? Long story.
So hang on, for people who don't know, the Heaven's Gate cult suicide happened in the late 90s in San Diego County. Marshall Applewhite was the cult leader. 30-some people drank Kool-Aid, all laid down and unalive themselves at the same time. And how this got reported was one person involved in that cult escaped, knew the plan, left, and told officials. I was working it when it came out on the scanner. When the first two deputies showed up at the house, they had rented some huge house in Rancho Santa Fe, the most luxury, high-end, expensive neighborhood in San Diego County. It's still that way. And the deputies go in and they see, like, in the bedrooms, there's like bunk beds. Some of you who are, old enough to know may have remembered the video. To the San Diego County Sheriff's Department's credit, they put out the video, which I guess was early body cam footage of the two deputies. I don't think it was body cam in the late 90s, but no, whatever. It was video. Mm-hmm. And they put it out and the media played it so people would get a sense of like how weird that case was. But as a homicide investigation, you had 35, 36, 37 people. And it was a huge, huge news event for San Diego County. And for those of us who covered it, and Chris was saying that he was at the medical examiner's office when the sheriff's department started bringing in, or I guess it'd be the ME's office started bringing in the bodies because the families had to go there to identify their loved ones and make arrangements.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the one thing about Southern California and, doing our careers down there, Karen in journalism, me in the Bureau and on the street as a cop, is we had a lot of volume and just some absolute craziness. I mean, we had Betty Broderick, the list just goes on. Okay. Remember the San Ysidro at McDonald's way back in the day with that fruitcake. And all the the list just goes on. Where am I going with this? I'm going with, we've had our fair share of very high profile stuff that's international. When I came out of the bathroom, even on the Matthew Checky case, there were, and I've shared this story 100 times, 13 satellite trucks back then. 13 satellite trucks out in the parking lot in the harbor, at the Oceanside Harbor. 13 of them. Now, you do the math on that back then. And the LA, Orange County, San Diego news markets are some of the largest in the world. I mean, that's where Hollywood is. That should be a hint. Okay. And so we were always very familiar with how to handle the media and what was important, to put out and not put out. And that's why, when Karen talks back in the day, even today, she's like E.F. Hutton. I listen because, she's been through the training. She went to the FBI training. She went to the DOJ training. She was a journalist. She was a PIO for 5 years, a public information officer at a law enforcement agency. In fact, you tried to keep your chief out of trouble one time with Bill O'Reilly, and that's another show. But that blew up on him about the border. That thing just exploded. And she just basically looked at him and said, I told you, have a great day. That said, the difference between privacy and a coordinated or widespread refusal to talk is really interesting to try to engage in and talk about.
And this is a really important point. This is a really important point
what do you mean?
Break open and talk about, because we're not approaching Nancy's friends by saying, break your confidence. And, we're not doing that. We're saying, tell us about Nancy as the person. Tell us about her. And it's very odd that from A to Z, family, friends, acquaintances, nobody is willing to talk about her. And I'm talking about the people in Tucson. I've seen a chat. I talked about this many months ago on the show. Kathy Lee Gifford, who worked at the Today Show and knew Savannah and is still friends with Savannah. Kathy Lee Gifford went on a podcast several months back, and somebody asked her about, well, tell us about the Nancy Guthrie, you're friends with Savannah. And Kathy Lee said publicly, the family's asked me not to talk about it. I have my own ideas, but I don't want to say.
Okay, now something just occurred in my head. What did the lady what did her girlfriend who organized the vigil say to you? What was her verbiage?
Let me go back and look.
This is really interesting. It just struck me what you just said.
Out of respect for Savannah and her siblings, I will need to decline.
Out of respect for Savannah and her siblings, she'll need to decline to talk about the vigil.
Yeah, a community event that she organized that was very public, and she's already talked about it in the past.
Yeah, why is that? What's going on with this? Because that impacts the family. The silence impacts the family because people are still looking for answers about her family. Would you guys agree or disagree? I mean, we're talking about it tonight. TMZ's talking about it. NBC's talking about it. Dateline did an episode on it. Everybody's talking about it. So how will it impact the family through silence? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? That the narrative, the talking points that the sheriff needs to get right, the script, the family, he's not good at following a script. The narrative of the doors are propped open, yet there's a second door that doesn't need to be propped open. Everybody look at this door real hard because there are two doors on that back patio. This is the second one. This one, you just push in and it stays open. This one, you have to pull out and prop it open. This is apparently the narrative the suspect chose, i.e. the porch guy. This guy allegedly chose this option, door number one. That's the narrative. Unless, of course, the sheriff wants to clear it up. Because when you start seeing the house from a 30,000 foot view, and then you start seeing this house at 10 o'clock at night and this car in the evening time start getting towed from this house, and there's no clarity of conversation about why that happened, yet a cone of silence is down upon the community. And when you start seeing this guy, that's the FBI agent, showing up at this house to talk about what? And you start seeing these guys walking out of the house with these bags. And my question is that a receipt for a search warrant? The guy under the left picture? Is he carrying a receipt to drop off? Which we've had a whole conversation about that one. But when you start seeing the FBI walking in, because that is the sack, that guy on the right, not the guy with the beard, the other guy behind him. And this is the guy that walked in with the Celebrite box, which is to download all of the devices in that house. And nobody wants to talk about it. I'll talk about it. My experience tells me this guy should not have been there. If they wanted those phones, all they had to do is say, we're going to confiscate your phones. And then they send it to this guy. They have a whole unit that downloads those phones instantaneously. These guys wouldn't be showing up at that house unless there's a reason. That guy who was at the 4-day press conference later that Kash Patel complained they weren't brought into is at that house. Not Nancy's house at first. This house. And from here, this car, which belongs to this house, is put up on a tow truck and hauled away for 40 plus days. And I'm not talking because it was raining. But this guy knows, and that guy to the left, they know what time it is. But the sheriff has apparently put a blocker out that he doesn't want anybody talking about it. Somebody else has put a blocker out. Could it be a public relations firm that is connected to this house through marriage? I'm just asking the questions. I'm not saying that's reality, and I'm not saying it's not reality. I'm asking the questions. Who created the talking points for the sheriff? Because he said it was, quote, the family. Who in the family created the talking points?
And what are all of the talking points? Enumerate them.
And that's why there's a FOIA out to get those talking points, because even though they're on his personal phone, he used them on duty. So therefore it becomes a chain of custody item that the defense will ask for, whoever's in custody at some point, or the prosecution will ask for from the sheriff to take it off of the plate. And if that's the case, then why is this guy on the left at the house with these other people, i.e. the FBI? That's who this is. And that's probably the U.S. Attorney's Office behind him. Why is the ICAC guy, that's Internet Crimes Against Children, ICAC, why is he bringing a UFED, which is a device that downloads devices or, cellular devices, computers, phones, etc., into the crime or into the house that's 2.5 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's house? Why are there two homes at play here? Why are these guys at that house in the middle of the night, 10 o'clock in the evening, taking photographs? Why is this car impounded for 40 days and the telematics taken and then it's reassembled? Why aren't they looking for this backpack and this guy? who is this guy? And why are we not hearing more about him? And instead of just hearing about nothing to see here, move along, we're making progress in this investigation.
Why wait over 6 months to put out to the public, hey, if you have noticed anything strange or different about somebody in your circle or a loved one, any scratches, any acting weird, anybody talking or not talking about the Nancy Guthrie case, why did it take him 6 months to put out all those points in a pursuit of trying to identify Porch Guy and create leads to get phone calls? Why did it take over 6 months to put that out to the public?
And why the animosity against this guy from Sheriff Nanos, when these guys have the tools, the manpower, and the resources to get pictures of this guy. Sheriff Nanos, did you not want to know about this guy? Because this guy wanted to help you. When are you going to man up, be a professional, and bury the hatchet behind the scenes? Because it is a really bad look for the Pima County Sheriff's Department right now, when you have former bosses, your boss, on podcasts such as Ashley Banfield, talking about your ego because of you don't like this guy, because they started a RICO investigation against your agency, which started before you were there. But when you did get there through an appointment, not through an election, but when you did get there through an appointment, you still have not allowed them to get and help you get this guy. And that's really not a good look.
And why aren't there any flyers in the Tucson area with Porch Guy? Why are they not out doggedly pursuing neighborhoods, flyers, any information they can get from the public on trying to identify Porch Guy? Why?
And by the way, Sheriff, what was found in this car? If there's nothing to see here, move along, then you owe it to the public, because you need to tell the public there's nothing there. And then you need to convince the public, because they all saw what happened on this night. They all saw it. Everybody saw it. That's the same car on a tow truck. We went to the dealership where they put it together. We talked to the service manager. I talked to the service manager. Guess what? They reassembled the car on your order.
It was there for a number of days too.
And the county paid for it. The county paid for it. So somebody's going to FOIA the bill. That's not part of an investigation. That's a public record. That's county money. It's available to the public to see. That's called the law, the sunshine laws in Arizona. They call it in sunshine in Florida. In California, they're making laws to prevent people from seeing fraud. Go do the math on that. But not in this case, because everybody's interested in finding out why this narrative about this door versus this door is so important. At least I am. You see, I've had a hard time getting past this narrative about two notes that suddenly come in, and one of them has an apology, behind it. And is this the same guy that props the doors open? What? Well, more importantly, how did they walk into the house? And did they go into the front porch, or did they miss this? And how long did it take to look for mom? And what's up with the bushes here? This guy with the rubber gloves and the bushes, which just conveniently there happened to be rubber gloves nearby, thrown on the side of the road. You know who tried that last was Barry Morphew. Remember Barry in the helmet? Suzanne's bicycle down the hill. Was it a mountain lion? I can't wait for that to start up. Remember that Tyson, the YouTuber, got Barry. Was it a mountain lion? Meanwhile, back at the ranch, this is a very serious situation, because this 84-year-old woman had this door on the front. And it's the same type of door in the back.
And we believe this was the last door that she would have seen if she was still alive, being taken out of her home. Thus the blood.
Yeah, and you'll notice the wreath here in this picture to the far left on the wall. Why didn't he just grab the wreath and cover the camera? Why is this such like a theater play where he decides, you know what? The wreath right there would probably work if I'm just covering the camera, or I'm going to, don't want anybody to see. And by the way, I've got a light in my mouth and I'm looking right to the left there into that window. Did he not see that wreath? Instead, he decides, you know what I'll do? I got an idea. What's that, porch man? I think what I'll do is I'll turn around and I'm going to throw him a head fake. What's the head fake, porch man? Well, I got to grab some leaves, or some other craziness. I gotta grab, a bunch of weeds in my hand, and I gotta pull the doorbell off, or pretend I'm pulling the doorbell off with the weeds. Did this guy not go to burglary school 101?
And along those lines, I've been asking this for quite a while. Why are we not asking Sheriff Nanos about the car? We know Nancy was taken out of her home and out of her neighborhood in a car. Remember the footage that I think Fox Digital first had? It was from a neighbor. It was caught on their camera of that. It looked like a white car. I can't swear that it was a white car, leaving like the backside of Nancy's neighborhood, about 2.5 miles from Nancy's home, within minutes after the data point that Nancy's pacemaker separated from her Apple Watch. Remember that? Yep. And the sheriff was very quick to dismiss it. Yeah, we know about it. It's not connected. That was his answer. Why are we not asking more about a vehicle?
So, and I want to point out something tonight that is exactly a great question, Karen. I mean, that's one of the many reasons why I love you. You're so smart. But I'm going to point out something tonight to the public that nobody's talking about. And that's this picture right here. This is in the backyard near the grass.
Can everybody see it?
Everybody can see that.
Okay.
Here's my question. What are they looking at? It's enough to have a conversation about. And that in Homicide 101 tells us there's something there. So here's my question. We know what's on the front porch. Could it be back here as well? Blood? It's going down this stairway. And if so, why is it in both places? If it's so convincing she went out the front, what are they looking at here? Let me see if I can get a better zoom in picture. From the pool, going down that walkway. And I've held this back for 7 months now. And you're the first ones to hear it tonight out of my head.
And while you're presenting that, it makes me think that the FBI, which we had heard, went back to behind Nancy's house very recently, last week.
Bingo.
And they were back there.
So something is right there to the point where the lead FBI agent has his hands open. And that's a gesture of conversation. He and the evidence guy there in the hat and the DA person, they're trying to figure something out. Now, I don't expect them to tell us what that is personally, but nobody has caught that anywhere on the internet.
You've heard it here first.
And so it will become news. I'm sure all the pundits will. It becomes theirs tomorrow, which is okay. Just give me credit. Like I've asked about the 2 data points of the garage. 9:48 it goes up, 9:50 it comes down. But then we have the family the next morning searching for the mother. Did they not open the garage? And if so, why don't we have those data points? What time in the morning did the garage go up? Not at night, in the morning. And then does that correlate to the impounding of the car in any way, shape, or form? Meaning, is it synced up with Nancy's garage? Do they have a clicker? Do they have the Genie app to open the garage from anywhere in the world? Click, data point. Did they not open the garage while searching for mom? Did they not come through the garage to go out and look for her in any way, shape, or form? Did they just arbitrarily go through that back door that's left open with a flower pot? Because mom always leaves her doors unlocked. And they actually pulled up and went around the house and just not through the front door with a key. Maybe they don't have a key. Not through the garage, which they did by habit the night before, because that's how Nancy got in. They pull up and they go around the back and boom, look at this. The door's left open. Let's go search for mom. And at some point, there's blood on the front porch. Did they see it? Did they not see it? Is it on the 911 call? Is this blood near the pool? that they're going to examine, because this is what this evidence guy said to the lead guy there. I want to show you something over here. And they go over there and they stop. And this picture was captured. I want to ask this question. What's going on with this? Did the suspect get her to the back door? Did he get her down by the pool and then change his mind and bring her back into the house and then out the front door? Or what? Something doesn't feel right. Something definitely doesn't look right. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody, not even the woman who helped arrange the vigil for Nancy.
It's not that her friends aren't asked about the case. We would not ask them about an investigation or the case or the evidence. We would just ask about Nancy. Tell us about Nancy. Tell her story. Who was she?
Exactly. Because this guy apparently, in my opinion, knew exactly who she was.
And he knew her schedule, her routine, that she would have been home or not home.
She knew this guy knows more about Nancy than her friends are willing to tell us about. This guy knew where her house was. In the middle of the night, pitch black. This guy knew she was in that house at 2:00 in the morning. This guy came prepared with a gun, if it's real, to use it, or else he wouldn't have had it. This guy concealed his identity, probably because he could have been recognized.
And he would have been the last person to see Nancy. Or she would have seen this guy as one of the last people probably to be seen.
This guy is concealing every bit of his body so that he can't be identified. This guy has said more in these pictures than the person that hung up on Karen, who gave a brief statement to the New York Times. A controlled narrative. Was it the same talking points that Sheriff Nanos was operating off of? I'm just asking the question. Was it the same talking points that the back door was propped open? When asked about why the car or why the ICAC team was on the scene, remember how the sheriff answered that one? I'm going to clip that one. You know what he said? It's just routine. Well, here's a question for you, Sheriff. You had an officer that was just shot and killed the other day with another corrections officer. That was a homicide. Did ICAC show up? Oh, wait. They didn't. Go figure. Why not? It's routine. It's just routine investigative work. No, ICAC doesn't show up for routines. The acronym Internet Crimes Against Children, there's a reason that these guys do what they do, and they're really good at it, getting predatory behavior off of the street. I don't know if it's a coinkydink or what, but I find it really interesting. Those guys have been out there from the very beginning. And what about this guy? Is that a receipt for the items that he just took out of the house? And that's his copy? I don't know. What else you got, hon?
I just think it's important to say that, look, we're not here to try to solve Nancy Guthrie's disappearance tonight. We're here to identify what we know, what we don't know, what doesn't make sense, and what investigators may be missing. And ask the question, why the people closest to Nancy refuse to talk about Nancy. Why? She's still missing. Her case isn't solved. Nancy has had no justice. Nancy's gotten lost in this whole investigation. If you knew her, if you were friends with her, I'm sorry, you're obliged to tell and share her story with the public on a case like this.
Yeah, and if you're the neighbor of anybody in that area, please reach out to us at info.theinterviewroom@protonmail. It's in our link below. We'd like to talk with you. We'd like to maybe even have you up to talk about Nancy.
But you don't have to. You can just talk to us.
Yep, it's up to you.
You don't have to come on.
That's an open invitation. If you knew Nancy and are willing to speak on or off the record, we invite you to reach out and communicate. Because we know there are many people that are not in the category of not wanting to help and share Nancy's story. We know that you're out there, and we would like to communicate with you. And if you wouldn't mind doing that, we would be grateful for that opportunity to communicate with you. Because you may know something that you may think is really irrelevant, but it may be a big piece of the puzzle that sometimes you can connect that's just kind of sitting there and you don't really realize it. Yes, the case does feel like it's being managed by professionals, maybe a public relations team. But guess what they can't control? They can't control the almost 13,000 people right now in this, watching this stream. They can't control that in any way, shape, or form. That's the First Amendment working. And the fact that my wife is a credentialed journalist with a journalism degree and a pedigree, who started at the LA Times, that would be a huge mistake. That would be very problematic. And I think they realize that. But we'd like to hear from you.
We think Nancy deserves a voice. Her story, again, we're not asking people to comment on the investigation. You know, we want to know about Nancy.
Thank you, everybody. Let's go through some of these talking points. You guys are the best. And by the way, we're working on some other stuff. There's still time to get the sheriff out of office and let the FBI keep moving. And thank you so much, Parker. I am. I'm determined, and once I bite, it's pretty tough. Ask John Lamb.
Are we gonna take some questions, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see here, Chris and Karen. These are more comments, honey.
Okay.
I feel the recent crimes against 2 LEOs this week was a planned distraction, if it's possibly too much insanity. Gosh, I hope not, right? But I think that's going to end up being a dirty money hit, unfortunately. Just my opinion. Or a retribution from somebody in the jail. It was also freezing that night. That's exactly right. And remember the sheriff, talking about how cold it was, and he was asked that one big question. And everybody, if you go back to that very first night, Don't forget this piece of the puzzle. Because what's the new timeline? What's the talking point? The talking point, right, is 10:56 or 11:56. That's the talking point. But go watch the very first press conference where the journalist leans over and says, "What time did the family get to the house?" And what does he answer? 11-ish, 11:15-ish. Next morning, he's got talking points. I am still, based on what Sheriff Chris Nano said, of the opinion the night he did the very first press conference, there is no way that his team said, okay, let's screw the sheriff up and give him the wrong 56 minutes. I am of the opinion, based on what he said, that the reporting parties who called 911 and said, my mom is missing, showed up around 11 to 11:15-ish in the morning. And the sheriff was correct when he answered that question. And then the follow-up behind that. Did they go into the house? Did they see her into the house? And what is the answer?
Yes. That was his answer. But was he guessing or did he actually know?
The next morning, the talking point is 9:48, the garage goes up. 9:50, the garage comes down in the evening. You know what's left out? A talking point about the garage ever opening up any other time while they were searching for Nancy Guthrie. Why don't we have a data point on that search effort? Did they not open the garage and look for her? And if so, what time did that happen? Even the search and rescue, Sheriff, tell the public what time the search and rescue opened the garage. You have that data. Just tell us. I suspect you're holding it close to your chest because that is a huge, important piece of the puzzle. Because the narrative, the talking points, has to fit. It has to fit. But somebody in the beginning didn't see it fitting. And I'm going to go out and take a guess that maybe you didn't like the narrative. Did you get a phone call? Were you persuaded by Donut Man who showed up with his donuts? Could that have happened? Because nobody else around you, in fact, you even chastised the gal at the recorder's office, if I remember correctly, who was asking, who released information about the residences.
Well, she was in the course of the investigation. I think the feds had asked her to cull some information together, pull it together. And he afterwards, I guess he found out about it and then he scolded her. And thank goodness she made a public statement about that.
Yeah. And by the way, this is all getting memorialized now on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcast, Sheriff. This will be memorialized that these conversations are happening. We will not forget, nor will we let Nancy Guthrie, her case go cold because of your ego and maybe the influences around you, because I'm getting the sense this isn't about Nancy Guthrie anymore. You just want it to go away. And I'm also getting the sense that others want it to go away. So that's why I'm waiting for the press conference. I'm waiting for the press conference so that questions and answers can be had without talking points, without cards going missing, memorials being taken down, KVOA becoming the point of contact for a memorial and rocks miles away from Nancy Guthrie's house. Miles away. Is the house being prepared for sale? After all, she's still missing, hasn't been declared dead yet. Is there a move going on behind the scenes that the public's not aware of, but maybe you are? That the house will be sold? And if so, if you have hope, what does Nancy come home to? The yellow ribbons have been taken down. You've placed signs on the street keeping people away. You're not with your teams going out there and meeting with the Bravo teams in Tucson and kicking the bushes, looking for porch guy. So I'm assuming you're going to probably think it's a good idea to have a press conference and everybody should be present. Would you agree, Sheriff? And you'll clarify any misstatements that you've made in any way, shape, or form.
I'm surprised you didn't hit the button for the Nanos button.
Well, let me ask him. Sheriff, what do you think?
All the things we know, and we still need to know what you know, because there's something out there that we don't know.
That's what I thought. Let's keep going. All right. What else? Am I missing something tonight? Karen loves it. She knows when.
I feel like we've hit most of the
when I get rocking
most
here.
of the points.
Let's see if I can find some screen door lock set is not set like you usually get for double hole. It looks like it came from two different lock sets. Interesting. Thank you, Angela. Great comment. We love your comments. Awesome. Unless you work at McDonald's at the fry machine and you're just here to try to troll, to give you some content on your channel, your Krama channel. You know.
Let's take some more questions.
I'm looking.
Or read the comments. Those are great too.
Thank you, Chris and Karen. Love from Wisconsin. Love you guys. Do you get a cheddarhead? You know, are there a lot of cheddarheads out there? Non-disclosure agreements, perhaps. Well, that's kind of crazy. But Lily Bay, that's a good point. If there are NDAs in play for the Nancy Guthrie investigation,
that would be wild.
Wild. Yeah.
What would they be agreeing not to discuss?
Chapter 4, non-disclosure agreements.
And that's not a win-win. That's a win-lose.
Thoughts about salesman told 857 he met Nancy Grace's caregiver. And, you know, I'm not familiar with that one.
Nancy Guthrie.
Who did I say? Nancy
Grace.
Nancy Grace?
Yeah.
Sorry, Nancy. Let's see here. Thank you. I love all these jewels, all this cool stuff that you guys are doing. When I think of Nancy, I don't think of Savannah. Isn't that interesting? Interesting comment. Let's see here. Sunshine, a lot of jewels going on here. Silent giant. Yeah, exactly. You woke up a silent giant. Yamamoto, World War II. Has anyone seen Nancy's X account before they took it down? She disliked our current president so much she swore like a siren, not judging, just curious. I had not.
And we have no way to verify that.
Yeah. Let's see here. We will never stop looking for our mom. Family don't talk about Nancy Guthrie, our mom.
I mean, that's another great point. What happened to the searching? This goes back to the car comment that we made earlier.
And Shanna Lee, thank you so much. I always see her on Twitter too.
We think more media needs to ask Nanos about a car and press him. Do you have a car? Are you holding it back? Do you have a partial description? Why would you not put that out to the public? The public can help. What happened to the video of the speeding car 8 minutes after Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her Apple Watch? That video.
Yeah, this is, how did the FBI know about Kalela's text to A&T? Did A&T tell authorities, or was the FBI monitoring her phone? That's a great question.
Great question.
Great question. I don't have the answer to that. Karen is the Chris whisperer. Yeah, she knows me like a book. This girl does. And you know what's really crazy? We think so much alike.
Well, that could be a little scary too.
Yeah. Voices for the Missing just did a program tonight about similar items from A&T Mail. They have pics. Okay. Awesome. Go over there and let's everybody get over there and watch that. Trophy cake. Thank you. Voices to, yep, there it is.
I can't see the questions from over here.
I'm trying
you're on your own over there.
Trying to put them up here. Thanks, cool. Chris and Karen and the mods. Thank you. Man, let's see here. Do you believe A&T will return to Tucson or not? That is a great question. They should. That's where their mom is.
I see a question coming through on chat. When is Kalela's sentencing date? We just found out recently it was moved up and it's going to happen August 31st.
Can you read the affidavit?
It's not an affidavit. It's a motion.
Okay. Yeah, we've got the motion right here. We'll read it for you while you're doing that. What is your training best guess what ICAC was there? Well, my best guess is somebody worked in the schools. Chris, what is your take why it wouldn't have been helpful to announce to public what Nancy was last seen wearing? That's a
great question.
Yeah, those details should have been announced, Lily B.
Yep.
100% those details should have been announced. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so with Kalela, his sentencing got moved up. It was scheduled for September 10th. It got moved up to August 31st at 2:10 p.m. in the federal courthouse in Tucson. And the reason is that Kalela will be finished with his inpatient treatment, the drug rehab program, on or about August 31st. And his lawyer makes the argument, well, it costs money if he's going to hang around Tucson another 10 or 11 days and wait for the sentencing. Plus, they said it's a period of temptation. If you get out of a drug rehab and now you're waiting like 10, 11 days before your sentencing, they don't want him back to square one, apparently. Not my language. That's what the lawyer said in the motion. So anyway, it's happening August 31st, which is 8 days from now, 2:10 p.m. in Tucson.
So, yeah, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. That guy shows up, tweaking to a federal courthouse. The lawyer says, Your Honor, when the federal judge says, anybody here under the influence of meth?
He didn't really say it that way.
That'll be me.
I like Chris's.
It's like, you can't make this up.
I like the theatrics you put in with that. It's funny.
It's like, seriously? Yeah, Your Honor, I'll take the entire courtroom apart. Give me 15 minutes. That's what tweakers do when they're high. They take bicycles, toasters, TVs, you name it. It all comes apart. It's hysterical. But that said, Let's go back to, looks at a homeowner of the residents of both addresses and found another unidentified name at A&T's home, along with mail in that person's name. Interesting. Annie's friends know AG was her biggest heartache. Will any of Annie's friends want to talk? Please send us an email. We'd love to communicate with you.
Yes, anytime.
Are you going to FOIA cars records? You will be surprised what we've already sent in. We've actually asked for everything. It's been sitting in the in basket. In fact, you even talked to the records people. You went into the office.
I did.
We went there.
We went there. He's actually a great guy. Really nice guy.
And what did he say?
He's got a tough job. He's between a rock and a hard place with the law on one side and an open investigation on the other. So, you know, with, as Nano said, with 400 plus media slash citizen journalists contacting them, they probably do have, you know, over 1,000 FOIA requests, if not more. And, you know, unfortunately, because it's an open investigation right now, they don't have to release things like the 911 call that everybody and their brother has asked for.
Yeah, he's clogged the wheel. That's for sure. He has clogged the wheel, and you got to give him an E for effort on, you know, how to dodge bullets. You know, in my opinion, I lost all respect for him the moment I heard that he beat the crap out of a handcuffed prisoner. That was it for me. Because then he makes other cops that are on the beat today out there risking their lives for our safety, risking their families every single night. And then you get some clown like him who beats the crap out of a prisoner. I mean, we used to hate it whenever you get a situation, well, in police terminology, it's called Code 4, where everything is like copacetic. The guy's all, you know, he's calmed down. Everybody's cool. He's sitting on the curb. And then Officer Friendless shows up. Nanos. We used to call him Officer Friendless. And he starts jacking the guy up. It's like, dude, get out of here. Enough already, right? We're done with you. And no cop likes a Nanos cop at all, in any way, shape, or form. And when IAs would happen, you get rid of those guys quickly. Internal affairs. Get rid of them. The problem is he's at the helm. And so are his munchkins.
And he's an elected official. Very hard to get rid of an elected official.
And he's an elected official. And that's why it's important right now. You have the opportunity to keep the pressure on the AG. Keep the pressure on the AG. And I hope DOJ comes in and puts him under a monitoring program.
They've done it before with Maricopa County.
Yeah, they did. Remember that.
For a number of years, too. You guys can go Google that if you want more information.
Exactly. The pool guy came in and cleaned the pool.
Let's take some more questions.
Yes. We did a deep dive on Splinter, and it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. I'm looking for questions. I'm just sifting through these real fast. And thank you, everybody, for all of these great jewel things here. I don't know what they are, but I'm glad you guys are able to do that for each other. All right. Let's see. Perhaps the neighbor's dog barking caused the perps to turn around from the pool gate area and leave through the front door instead. Perhaps. We haven't heard anything about that. But they're definitely looking at something in the backyard, right? You would agree? I'm sick of Savannah and her rants on Instagram because she can't truly love her mother. Not now. I feel sorry for poor Nancy. She will never know. She will know. Do you think the real reason people are reluctant to talk about Nancy is fear of Nanos and what he could do to them? Karen, what do you think?
So it is a very good question. It's either that fear or the fear of Savannah. It's it may have to be one or the other. You know, we don't know. You know, it's interesting and puzzling why so many people. It's one thing if you can control a couple people, but everybody, acquaintances, people that she went to church with, people in her circle, friends that she's known for years, people of different ages. It is pretty interesting and baffling that that many people could be influenced to not say anything. I'd say from Kathy Lee Gifford, all the way down to people in Tucson.
Interesting. And Buddy just showed up here underneath the table. Lori Wilcox says, Wiccan, AG, Supermom, Ritual, Sacrifice, NG may not have been the only one dropped off by TC. Interesting. That's an interesting thought. He's showing how they carried her through the gate. Interesting. As always, facts only. Just the facts. Like Sergeant Friday. And it's Sunday. Let's see here. Nanos needs to go. Thanks, TIR. We agree. Member for 19 months. I want to believe. LOL.
I may have to go settle Buddy down.
Here, you want to take care of him?
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, yeah. Make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.